Hello and welcome back to Rebound with Resilience, a podcast dedicated to raise your resilience mindset and mental wellness. Last week, we had Daryl on the show to talk about purpose, passion and power. If you haven't listened to that, do listen to it. But in line with the start of the new year, we are going to carry on helping you to achieve your goals, helping you to start the new year right. I have with me a friend and a guest, Jing An, to talk about setting goals and more importantly, establishing systems and routines to achieve them. Alright, so welcome Jing An to the podcast. Wow.
Thanks Kevin for the invitation. Really happy to be here and your new studio right after Daryl. Very excited to share and have a very good conversation for this 1 hour.
Just to introduce Jing An a little bit, right? I met you, Jing An is actually a student. So he's actually a student now from NUS Business School. He's an entrepreneur. He's one of the top financial consultants for his age. And he has also wrote a book called Simple Wallet, right, which I've bought as well. It's a great book. It's an adulting guide for graduates and especially millennials as well. And he has achieved so much success, right, at his age. And really, I tell you, right, despite his success, he's so humble and so... Basically, what strikes me the most is how disciplined he is right, around his systems and around his principles. So I think he's one of the best people to actually talk about this topic today. Okay, so I'm looking forward. Do you remember the first time we met?
Yeah, it's actually a personal development networking program, right? A networking session. I was involved in the startup expertise, and then that's when I met this guy, called Rebound with Resilience. Super interesting, and he was one of the winners for our contest.
Oh yes, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, correct. And it's like, wow, this guy can speak, and he came up to me and we chatted, and he even wanted to support a watch brand that I started in my first business. So I was like, wow, this guy, and I follow his Instagram, the content he creates, like, wow, this is something that more people need to hear about. And I shared about him. Along the way, we built good relations, supported each other. We hop on Zoom calls, and then here we are today, right? Finally.
Yeah, actually it's interesting. I still remember you were handing out like beers to everybody. Oh,
yeah,
so I was thinking about who's this guy handing out. So overly enthusiastic, and then when you shared as well for that part of expertise, right? It's basically a personal development platform. I think you can really sense your passion in your journey. You share about starting Ikigai, your watch brand. And then here you are now, I think about a year later, we are seated here doing this podcast. So, I mean, the reason why I did this introduction is because I just want audience to know you as a person first, before we actually talk about it. But I'm sure as you go along, you will definitely get to know Jing An better, and how you can really sharing can definitely help you, right, to get more insights about habits. Yeah. Okay, so the outline of this podcast, I think new year, new me. Everyone is setting new goals, right? You talk about purpose. But a lot of times we don't achieve our goals because we don't actually take actions to get there. So I'm going to talk to Jing An about establishing effective systems, right? Setting goals, and also overcoming barriers to inaction. Okay, what are some barriers that stops people from taking action, and how do you actually overcome it? Okay, so Jing An, let's begin with a bit of your brief background and motivations first. Just describe your childhood briefly. What excited you the most?
Childhood. So I would say, I'm the kind of guy when I was from young primary school. Yeah. I like to go to the library in the weekends and borrow books. But somehow I wasn't very proud of it, honestly. And the kind of books that I borrow are actually can be from habits to building relationships to even how to study. A lot of personal development stuff and psychological stuff. And soon after, when I transited to secondary school, right, the things that I was interested previously in primary school, such as media. So I love photo editing, video editing, and writing as well. All these are slowly, put to the shelf or less of importance because I was focusing a lot on grades. Right. So I was chasing grades, and it became less meaningful, I would say. But still, it's just being part of the system, being part of the whole entire culture of mugging. Okay. That was when I felt that when I go to NS, right, in the army, I actually wanted to, I have more time to myself. There's no more studying left. Right. And that's when I regained back my interest. I was doing things that I feel that matter to me the most, things that I always wanted to explore. I started reading. And I knew that I always wanted more of life, but I just couldn't find it in school.
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Like, do you think you were particularly talented or smart growing up? Okay, I know personal development is interesting because like you embody personal growth and development. You're reading, you're listening, you're learning from people every single day. You're so humble despite your success, like I said earlier. But you're still so eager to learn, right? And now you tell me that from young you really went to library books and borrow things from the library. I think that's interesting. But you stopped that. My question is, would you think you're particularly talented or smart?
In fact, I wouldn't really say so, right? I always strive to be one of the top, right? But then I'm always not top, right? Maybe second, right? Or you know, right? Or third, or fourth, right? I mean, second as in like a progressively go about, right? So I mean, I came from JC, ACJC actually, and I think that was when the competitiveness really set in, in a JC environment. Then I knew, oh shit, you know, studying is not something I cut out to excel, like to be the top, like number one, right? Not number maybe 50 out of 200. So, so I was just like slightly above average. And no matter how much effort I put in, I wasn't the top. And why is that important to me? Because I want to be able to reach my best potential. So studies is not where I can reach my best potential. I feel, right? So that's when I started to explore other areas, right? I was very into fitness. I was very into sports. I had 2 CCAs in JC, frisbee and squash. And I also was exploring other personal development stuff.
So you're really exploring your passions, exploring other strengths that you could develop.
In little ways, yes. In little ways, you know, but I always push it back. But I knew it's inside me. I knew it's inside me because in childhood, right, we always chase what matters to us the most. Right? And of course, that was what mattered to me the most.
Sure.
Right.
Okay. That's very interesting. What was the game changer or pivot point in your life where, you know, because for me, right, my pivot point was when I messed up my A's and then overcome depression. I met my mentor, right? And that was the huge first tangent off into my passion and purpose. And you mentioned that you were just like going along, doing studies and everything. Was there any pivot point or game changer?
I think in school, it's just sometimes you're lost but you don't really know you're lost because you're just like floating by. And there's just so busy in school, right? Just studying. And I constantly have like doubts about myself, right? Whether I always feel that I'm not enough. I'm never enough, and no matter how much effort I put, right, it just doesn't equate to anything that is measurable or worthwhile. And I think it's really about when I entered army, I had more time to myself. And I realized a lot of people around me are also lost, right? And I begin to see some people are doing a bit more than others. I think that was when I started to approach them, ask them, hey, you know, little things like they start their own business, they're into investing. It's like, wow, you know, actually, why how these people have this kind of head start? So I asked them for advice. And I think the turning point was really because I just felt that if I carry on continuing my life, right, you know, just earning an income and just spending on things that I like, right, it's not sustainable at all. Because NS is the first time I earned a consistent income. But that was the turning point that, okay, so I got money, you know, I'm financially independent, right, so I can buy whatever I want. But when I actually ORD, I only had like $3,000 in my bank. And I asked my friend, how much do you have? $10,000 to $15,000. Oh shit, my financial planning sucks. And I've not been spending my money in the best way. And I asked everybody else, right? And they all say that they're pretty lost in life as well. They asked me, so what's the meaning of life, right? Is it just to work hard, study hard, right? Get a good degree.
We're discussing this in ITA, the last podcast.
Get a job, right? Then after that, you know, work your whole life, right? And after that die. So a particular friend asked me this question in NS, then I was like, oh yeah, so that's interesting. And more people, you know, started asking me, we started discussing. And then I really realized, right, that the last 6 months of NS, I need to make use of it. And that's when I started reading books to gain more perspectives, to, you know, get my brain working in NS, you know. So, and I think really is the people I meet and the books I've read that really changed the course of my direction in my life.
And you went to create meaning, you went to seek that meaning in that sense.
Yes, correct. So I started to adopt more frameworks. I started to, you know, like Ikigai is one framework, right, towards direction in life. I started to seek a lot more mentorships, right? So like what you're doing right now, Rebound Resilience, is really giving mentorship to people who need it. And it's free. This all stuff, right, is free. Last time, there's not so rampant in terms of like the kind of content that is available. Right now, it's all free. And at the point of time, books are the easiest way to get free stuff, right? Free access. And of course, as I haven't had to borrow money to invest in a course. So my first ever course is I borrowed my money from my parents.
Right. You are really huge on that. Like, I realized that we're looking at your stories. Okay. Anyway, I forgot to talk about it, right? But Instagram, please go and check Jing An out, right? Because every time I look at his stories, I get motivated. It just seems constantly working on things, constantly improving himself. So much value, free value from his Instagram account, just on finances, just on personal growth. So definitely go and check it out. But coming back to the podcast, right? I think we were discussing Ita was saying that one quote for this man search for meaning. I'm not sure if you heard before. Viktor Frankl?
Yes,
okay.
Of course.
So I think a slight point, right, before I transition into goal setting is that meaning is something a lot of people think that, okay, what's my meaning of my life and everything. There's always that asking like, why me and what should I do, right? But the book actually talks about that meaning is something that you create, right? That instead of asking what's the meaning of my life, right? Life is asking you what's the meaning of your life. And life demands an answer from you, right? So that paradigm shift was very useful. Like in a sense, I think that you did that also in trying to find that meaning and what's more in my life than just like studying and the usual stuff lah. So after that I know you transition into financial planning, but I know you want to be more than just a financial consultant, right? You want to really, so talk a bit about that. Your mentor you met, just briefly before I go into goal setting.
Yeah, so I think ultimately what I wanted to pursue in NS when I read books like Rich Dad Poor Dad is the first go-to book, right? And then of course more on like finance books. What I realized that what I want to do in life, just do what I want. I think it's very simple. But more than that, right, what this actually pertains into is financial freedom, right? And financial freedom to me is not just not working. It's not working, right? It's basically work not because work not because I need to, but because I want to.
Yeah.
So that's my definition. I want to have that kind of autonomy.
Sure.
So I went to figure out how, and I realized usually only two ways, right? Business and investing, right? And that's when I actually actively seek out for mentorships. I paid for multiple 4-figure courses, right?
Wow,
Tony Robbins, Unleash the Power Within, right? It's one of them. Asia Works. There's many more, right? That I went. And that is when I have a huge paradigm shift because books can only give you so much. But when you seek personal mentorship, right? Who gives you like the experience, I actually have a better learning and a transformation in my thinking.
Okay.
Like so, also I first started out right by creating a watch brand, and subsequently as the NUS Entrepreneur Society vice president in NUS, that was when I was exposed to the startup culture. And at the same time, I was really focusing on picking up entrepreneurship skills such as sales, leadership, management. Right, all these things, right, that I was able to pick up through financial advisory. As well as the main motivation was to sort out my own finances and to really educate other people on how do they plan their finance. So I was doing all this concurrently, and I think the biggest thing that what you asked about my mentor, right, was is that this particular mentor, right, Ray. He actually is the one that guided me throughout the past 1 to 2 years, and that's why I stuck out. Ray Tan. Yeah, correct.
Ray Mark is another guy that always comments on OGS videos. But Ray Tan, yes, because you know what I know? Because I actually have a book, 30 Lessons in 30 Years.
Yes, correct.
Someone actually passed it to me. I know you wanted to pass to me too.
Yeah,
It's a good book.
Correct. Yeah, it's about how to script our life, right? How to find meaning. And I think, going back to, just now you talk about meaning in life, right? Which a lot of young people in our audience or whatever want to find meaning, right? I think it boils down to this quote that I saw in a book, right? In the 30 Lessons, 30 Years book, by Picasso.
Right.
The purpose in life is to find our gift, and the meaning in life is to give it away.
I love it. Yes, I heard that quote before.
Right. So we just want to find what's our strength. And then we want to give it away, and that's called purpose. That's called meaning.
Love it.
Right? And that kind of like, okay, I set myself, okay, let me try anything and everything, right, so that I can find what my strength is, other than studies. Right. And that's a huge step because study is still something that my parents are traditional, right? They ask me to study, go engineering and stuff like that. Right. And so it's a huge step for me to like spend the extra time, right, besides playing, replacing playing and social, right, to pursue all this so that they have more confidence in me.
The actually funny thing is it's a recurring theme, right? Even the previous podcast, Daryl was talking about, we were talking about passion and purpose. Like you need to try many things, and then eventually purpose is more other oriented, right? Passion is just something you enjoy, but purpose is something you give away. It gives you meaning. And again, you're somebody that stands out because you are constantly thinking about how to give and add value. You came here today with this. This is not a sponsored podcast, by the way, okay? Just for your information. But he's a good friend of mine. He just gave me this book with augmented reality here. Really cool stuff. So you're always coming and giving me value. But okay, so I think to summarize your kind of achievements, right? In 3 years, I think once you started financial planning, you got your MDRT,
yeah.
right? So one of the youngest
in company.
Yeah, in a company to actually get it, and of course all these achievements that, and you're making a decent income. And I don't want to say how much, but I think you roughly have an idea. He has other investments as well, okay, not just his and stuff. But I know that people look at you and say, okay, Jing An, wow, I look at your social media, you have so much following, you have so much value, you write a book, but I want to go down to the foundation. Okay, the times where you're alone, nobody give a shit. You were just hustling day after day, posting content, and you start out with 0 followers as well, right? Probably 600 followers or something.
Yeah.
So I believe all this began by you setting goals.
Yes, correct.
You set goals. So I want to talk about setting goals, right? First of all, and this is really the theme of the podcast, why should you set goals first?
Okay, so I think this question, right, was gave me clarity through this particular question that or concept that my mentor shared with me. So he asked me this thing: what percentage of the architecture plans right are not completed?
Okay.
Right, and the answer is none. All of them are completed.
Wow.
It's just a matter of how fast or how slow, right? But eventually, all of them will be completed. And we look at the buildings that's being constructed; they all have a blueprint.
Right.
And if buildings have a blueprint for themselves to build into how tall they want,
exactly.
right? Exact thing, right? The foundation is actually the is based on a blueprint. If even buildings have a blueprint, right? Why don't we have a blueprint for our life?
Right.
And that really struck me, And he asked me, so what's my blueprint for my life in the next 5 to 10 years?
Right.
And honestly, it's not very clear, right? It's just, I want to be financially, I want to be happy. It's just so vague, right? When you build a building, it doesn't say, I want to have a tall building.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't work that way. And I think ultimately, in terms of goal setting, they always say that if you don't have a plan for yourself, someone else will have a plan for you.
Yep.
And what do they have in plan for you? Nothing much.
No idea.
Right?
Yeah.
So
you either be disciplined or be disciplined.
Oh yeah, correct. That's a new one I haven't heard before,
Okay, cool.
but it's definitely true. And always all times I'm very ambitious, and I feel that if we don't build our own dreams, we'll be helping someone else to build their dreams.
Okay.
Right.
Nice.
So I think that's why we have to be very clear about our goals. What do you want to achieve, so that we can script our life. And I always believe, right, that we can script our life, right, up to 90% accuracy. After this is the exact statement what my mentor shared. So of course, there can things like the 10% can be like COVID. It's like, oh shit, my year is different, but you still can script up 90%.
Yeah, of course.
And this points the importance of setting goals. Yeah.
Okay, sure. So how can one set effective goals? Because everyone knows about goal setting. I think people roughly have an idea that, okay, I need to set goals. Because from young, I think even in our society, it's very focused on social mobility, economic progress, and you always need to set targets, right? So people know that, but how can one set effective goals?
Okay, so I think really setting effective goal is actually something that I've been studying a lot, right, through this book called See You at the Top, right? And I get a lot of insights into it, also on top of what I have been experiencing. Right, and I also want to say, right, that the foundation that I have built in goal setting is not overnight. It is built, slowly and progressively. After taking so many different ideas, right, and then simplifying it. That is on my own. But there's a few structures which I'm going to talk about later.
Sure.
Right, that we can start with. Right, but with regards to how do we set effective goals, I think it just boils down to this this quote. Right, so actually this quote, right, it says, right, that a dream written down with a date becomes a goal. A goal broken down into steps becomes a plan. A plan backed up by action makes your dreams a reality. So a lot of times, when you go to New Resolution, you ask ourselves, have you achieved it? Right? If not, right, it's probably because we didn't take enough action, we didn't have a plan.
Yeah.
Right? And we didn't have a date. Right? So we need to have these elements. And I think for me, right, what I would like to say is that how do we set effective goals? We need to have 3 things. Firstly is we want to know what goals we want. Right? That's beginning with the end in mind.
Okay.
Secondly, we want to know where we are currently.
Okay.
And thirdly, we want to have a live GPS so that it can guide us towards the correct direction. So, and a lot of times it's just goal setting, just write what goal we want. But you don't know where you are,
Yeah.
If I throw you to the forest and I tell you, where you should be going, right? I give you a map. Okay, we're gonna at the end of the forest there, but you don't know where you are. You will just be, just going up and down, left and right. You never get out of the forest.
Right.
So that's why knowing where you are is important. Having a compass is important. Right. Having a map, right, is important. Right.
So where does that map or compass kind of come from in your experience, lah?
Okay, I mean, it relates to the map, right? I think it really boils down to understanding the script. Right? How do we script our life, right? And how we should go about it, right? I think honestly, right, it's about having frameworks as to what kind of when we do our goal setting, we should have some frameworks.
Okay.
Like which are the areas of life do you want to plan about? This is the most general one.
Okay.
And the 6 areas they want to plan, right, actually is from this planner, right?
Go read it out. It's fine.
This book, right? That I give to Kevin. Right, this is actually a planner.
He gives me a lot of books.
Right. So I think ultimately we ask ourselves. A lot of people, right? They say, okay, I want to do sweet, I want to do this, I want to do that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But actually, there's 6 essential areas of our life that you want to plan for.
Yeah.
Right. Firstly is mental. Secondly is physical. Thirdly is financial. Fourthly is family.
Yeah.
Fifth one is spiritual, and sixth one is social.
Yeah.
So, having this guide or framework, right, helps a lot. Especially when we write it down.
Yeah.
Right. So I want to really talk about this thing called beginning with the end in mind.
Yeah.
Right. Beginning and end in mind is actually from this 7 habits of highly effective people by Stephen Covey, right?
Sure.
And a lot of times, right, we understand that everything in our life happens twice. Once in our mind and once in reality.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so you want to be very, very clear. And the best way I feel to be super clear about it is to write it down. Right? And because when you write it down, our subconscious mind is involved. And all of our thinking is controlled majorly by the subconscious mind.
Yeah.
Right? So when you ask me, how can we really plan goals, right? I really think, right, that what we want to have is actually understanding what is the goals we want to achieve, right, in the 6 areas.
Yeah.
Subsequently, we want to break it down and simplify. A lot of people, right, they don't really break it down.
Okay.
Like for example, okay, now I want to achieve all these 6 areas in my life. So what is this 1 year New Year resolution, right?
Yeah.
Then how about quarterly?
Yeah.
Then how about half a year? Right, how about every month?
Sure. Sorry to interrupt you, Jing An. Just to give audience some context. Interesting you mentioned because you look behind 7 areas, right? So actually there's 7 areas that I set at the start of 2020. In the 7 areas that you talk about, vocational and financial are actually split, right? And it's interesting because I look at it and some of it have achieved, some of it have not. And for those that have not, actually I did not break it down or haven't really looked at it often. And you talk about how breaking it down into first quarter, second quarter, third quarter. I think that's important as well because I didn't do that. I just wrote it down at the start of 2020 and I just put it there. I don't really review it. But I think that's a good start, right? So looking at all the areas, writing it down first. Writing down is really important. And then after that, you go start from Jan to March, right? What are some things that you want to work on? And then break it down even further.
Yeah, so it boils down to having a specific action plan, right? I think a lot of people don't have like the specific roadmap. How do we achieve it? So maybe I can give some examples.
Yeah, I would love you to give examples because sometimes it's a bit abstract for audience, right? This might be something completely new to them, especially if they're youth, right?
Yes, correct.
Talk about maybe just one particular area that you have kind of achieved success in and then you just share the process.
Okay. And so of course, one thing that bother me the most is finances.
Right. Okay.
When I ORD, there's not much money. And then I want to be financially free. So the end in mind is financial freedom, right? But I think honestly, one bigger thing would be the end of life. Yeah. But what do I want to achieve at the end of life, right? So we should really have the end in mind, and that's by writing our eulogy. So if you realize, right? Yes, we have a lot of money, right? But we can't bring the money to our grave. It is like dust to dust, right? We can't bring a single cent. Our Ferrari, Lamborghini, everything, nothing.
Sure.
So whatever awards we achieve, nobody will talk about it after 10, 20 years. If I ask you, the last 5...
Nobody gives a shit.
Nobody gives a shit.
Honestly, look at all my trophies there. I just display it for myself and to collect dust and to validate myself. Other than that, nobody really cares.
Yeah, I mean, this is just primary school, secondary school stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I think, honestly, what for me, right, would be impact. And it's just simply by asking ourselves a few questions. So at my deathbed, right? Of course, this only happened when I actually have a friend who has had an encounter with death, right? Not close encounter, it encountered death, and it got me thinking, right? If I were to be, in my deathbed, right, at 85 years old, right, the mortality age, what do I want people, what would people say about me? What would people say about me? Jing An is fun, Jing An is, only having, have fun, right? Jing An is annoying, right? Or whatever, right? All these negatives that I just wrote it down. Yeah. And then the second question I ask myself is, what do I want them to say about me? And that's when I start to work towards it. So that's the end in my, usually it's very vague. Okay. I made a video on it, like IGTV, y'all can check it out if y'all want to. But then, right, I realized that, I want people to say that I've inspired them, they haven't they didn't give up because of me, right? And that's why the kind of content I create, right, is very clear. Yeah. And then of course, right, ultimately it's financial freedom. Right. So how do I achieve financial freedom? I broke it down.
Right. And just to pause a while, right? So you talk about the end goal, which means about meaning and giving back. Creating value, what you want to be remembered for.
Yes, correct.
But to get there, I think financial freedom was a milestone, right?
Yes,
it's important
correct.
for you because you know how much when you're free of freedom and time and money, you can also serve people in many different ways.
Yes, correct.
So I'm just trying to help audience draw the link. Now talk about the finances.
Yeah, thanks for linking, right? So financial freedom, right, is a pathway to that, right? Yeah. And means I can create impact on my own terms, create a value I want without money restricting me. Yeah. And for what I see, personally my goal, right, is to be a millionaire by 30 years old. Okay. That is, to me, is financially free. Sure. And now this is a daunting goal because it's unimaginable, right? Yeah. That is when I started to mix with people who also have the same goals. Sure. Right? Environment, right? If we can talk about it. Yeah. And I break it down very simply. Right. So I ORD have 3K in my bank. Right, how do I reach there in like less than 10 years?
You really broke it down.
Right? And I told myself, like, okay, when I have this clarity, it was when I was 23, right? This year, right? I told myself, okay, let's measure it. Let's put a deadline, right? Let's do by 26 years old. Let's have $1 million worth of business revenue, business profits, right? And okay, so I broke it down. To achieve $1 million by 26 years old, that means I have 4 years left. Right, which means, right, which means I've earned 100K in the first year, 200K in the second year, 300K in the third year, and 400K in the fourth year. Sure. So that will amount to $1 million. So I really broke it down. Sure. And then I told myself, okay, now this year, how can I achieve $100,000 worth of income? Sure. And then of course, you have to understand some business, like your career, how do you do it, and I invest, right? And I think most important is really have a deadline. A lot of people say they want to be financially free, but by when? Yeah. Right, and then a lot of time I do financial planning for other people. They want to retire by a certain age, right? Yeah. They just say, oh, I want to fire, be financially independent and retire early. How old? They're not very sure, right? How to go about it? They're also not very sure, right? If they want to invest, how much should they invest? They're also not very sure. If I show the compound returns over a period of time, then they'll be like, oh shit, actually, I should be investing much more, right? So I think it really all boils down to clarity in our goals, right? And when we must, I think most importantly, I didn't touch on this now, right? Is we must want the goal. Right. It shouldn't be imposed by other people. Okay. It must be worthwhile to us. And hence is why the reflection is super important, right? Yeah. Of what do we want at the end of our life. Right. And that will allow us to, okay, this is my goal, right? And how I tell myself is, when I learn to die, I learn to live. This is by Steve Jobs. And so that's why I make sure that I live every single day, right, as if it's my last. Because one day certainly you'll be right. And, I make sure that, that's why the things I do is very intense, right, because I have a very clear end goal in mind. Yeah. So that is really what strikes me the most, right? Because yes, I have financial goals as well. Yes, everybody says they want to be a millionaire or whatever, but they're not sure how much, or they say they want financial freedom, but they're not sure how much their parents are spending a month on the household bills. Right? If you want to retire your parents, right, what is your parents earning? And how can you replace that income? So a lot of times it's just saying, it's very easy to say. But what I said, really, I keep saying this because I really mean it. Why I invited you here is because you execute. Right? And there's clarity, you execute, you break it down, and you work, you don't just speak, you work at it. And so that's why when you speak about it, right, so much clarity and then you really broke it down and you're on your way. What's amazing is you're on the way there. You're actually on the way to reach your goal. So I think transitioning right out of this, just for the listeners, just a summary of effective goals. It needs to be yours It cannot be imposed. If the goals are actually imposed on you, and then that wouldn't work. It has to be authentic. It has to be what you want, not what your parents, what society wants. And then once you have that in mind, then look at the 7 areas and then just break it down. What exactly you need to do on a month-to-month basis or even a day-to-day basis, right? What are the avenues, what are the vehicles that can help you to achieve that?
So with that, I think that's a good transition into the next segment now, which is on habits and systems. Okay, because goal setting is easy, but what really gets you there is your habits. So I want to introduce this segment by a quote from Atomic Habits. I think you read it before by James Clear. Right? He said, "We don't rise to the level of our goals; we fall to the level of our systems." Before the level of our standards. That's what a lot of people set goals at the start of the year. And gym memberships are the highest, right? Start of the year. But very few people actually follow through on that. And he says that we need to have systems to follow through on that because again, motivation, right, is actually a myth. Right? Motivation is not just
from the book, right?
Yeah, Motivation Myth by I think Jeff Harden. He says that motivation is a result of action and not just the cause of it. A lot of people wait for motivation and then they act, but their motivation never comes. They never act. Their success never comes. They get demotivated. It becomes a cycle.
Yes, correct.
Right? But if you can kind of be disciplined around your systems, right? You act, you get small wins, results. That gives you that motivation, and then the loop keeps going again and again. That's what he describes as a dopamine-induced kind of loop, And the people who are successful actually are very disciplined around their systems. Okay. So let's talk about this.
Interesting, really interesting. I love this. I love this part. Okay.
Okay. So how can we set up systems, right? Okay, and form good habits. It can be generally speaking, right? It can be for students, self-employed, people working, right? How can they set up systems?
Okay. So I feel personally, right? This is all about having structures in our life.
Okay.
Having frameworks and having schedule.
Okay.
Right. So maybe I can introduce some of the things that I'm doing, right, that help to put everything in place. All this I learned from mentors and different courses, right, that have worked well for me. And I hope it will work well for you, right? One system that I really adopt is actually this CEO hour, right? CEO hour is actually based from my mentor's book, right, 30 Lessons, 30 Years. And I adopted it after I learned from it. I think I introduced to you before as well. Right, just weekly review of what we have done last week. Just spend 1 hour me on the weekend, right? What I have done last week, what I have done right, what I have done, what areas can be improved, and then we plan for the next week, right? Each day, and the highest level is to plan by the hour, which I do, right? Of course, it's not up to, it's 90% accurate only, right?
Sure.
At the start, maybe 50%.
90% is a lot.
And when we do our planning, right, I adopt this framework called having 7 objectives in the order of importance in every activity that I want to do.
Okay.
So that means, right, when I plan for my next week, what is the top 7 things unachieved in that week?
Right.
And then when I plan for my day, right, after I plan my day, I actually have a daily planning. So maybe 15 minutes before I sleep, I will plan. And then 15 minutes before I wake up, I'll look at my plan again, right, to understand and to internalize. So, and hence I'll plan to the hour. And I have 7 objectives in the order of importance for that day.
Okay.
And the next level, right, which is very, very tough, right, but I progressively improve, right, is having 7 objectives in every activity that I do.
Okay.
Right, so that means it's really multiplied by 7 folds in every area, right? And for example, when I come to this podcast, right, I can just simply come in and just talk, right? But one more objective is, why not bring something nice for you, right?
That's amazing.
A planner, right? That I have that my company has. And why not we have lunch as well, right? Which you're gonna have a lunch later, and why not invite a friend? I wanted to connect. Actually, I put a calendar with him tomorrow. I was like, now it's perfect. I don't need to spend extra time. We can catch up over lunch. So if we plan all this, our 1 hour will be so much more effective.
Right, that's insane. 7 objectives in the hour itself. So for the activity, you have an end in mind for the activity, right? To make it the most worthwhile.
Yes, correct. So of course it's not easy, right? Because I only have 1 objective, how can I 7? So it's very unnatural at the start. Hence we need a framework and structure to follow. Then you'll force us to think. And afterwards, right, maybe after 6 months, it'll be second nature. Right, it'll be second nature. And what I want to say is, we don't have to achieve all 7. It is fine that we don't, right? Because ultimately, we still achieve in the order of importance or priority. Right? But a lot of times, right, if we don't have this kind of prioritization, what will happen is you just do what you feel like doing. Right? Watch movie. Actually, it's not even the top 7. Right? Or maybe surf Facebook. It's not even the 7th. So it's and I still fall slave into such things like, shit, I haven't do my 5th and 6th and 7th one, then you just push back the next day. And so that's why the daily review is super important, right? Because yes, I have a very perfect 7 days that I plan out, right? But still, right, somewhere we'll just screw up. And hence it's important to review. And one thing that I also like in this particular, so I have a daily planning sheet, right? If you all want, you can let me know, right? And I can send to you guys, right? I think the review part is super important. And with review, right, it's not just what areas can we improve on, but what did we do right? Because if you don't track, right, what we do right, how can we replicate the success? Right? A lot of people, right, they achieve their success, but they don't know how they got there. And a lot of people have different ways of getting the same destination. So we have to figure out our own way.
Sure. I love it. Let me do a summary for people. Right? The first quote is, I think it was John D. Martini. He's one of the really a polymath. He said that if you don't fill your day with high priority actions, you'll be automatically filled with low priority distractions. And another thing is that you mentioned about, another thing he mentioned is that the greatest growth actually occurs in the border of support and challenge. I love that quote because because a lot of people just challenge themselves. They're so critical of themselves. They forget to remind themselves what they're proud of, what they're good at, what they did well. You need to support yourself also. You need mentors to actually help you. But at the same time, you also need to challenge yourself and say, okay, be critical. What are the things I need to improve on? Because it's only in challenge that we grow. Right? So that CEO hour that you mentioned there is also something that I incorporated for myself after looking at his stories, no less, about set aside maybe 1-2 hours on Sunday, right? Really just look at your past week, review your systems, what went well, what can you improve on, and then plan out for the week. And this also links to the concept of time blocking and making time.
Yes.
Because when we talk about systems, right, generally there are two things. There's making time and protecting time. You need to schedule in time, whatever that is visible, whatever that's attractive you will do. That is, okay, we don't want to go too much into habits now because we don't have time. But maybe Ita and I will talk about it in the life hacks with Ita, okay? We'll talk about making the cues and how do you make rewards more satisfying. But so we talk a lot about making time, right? Shadowing time. Let's talk about protecting time now. Right? Distractions. How do you protect the time from being stolen?
I think this is a very, very interesting segment, right, of time management, right? Because we can be very ambitious about time, and we don't know how much time will until to what, and this especially so, right, for people like me who want to do a lot of things. When I was running my own business, I watched brand, right, before I enter uni. Then when I enter uni already, oh shit, it's like a whole new environment. There's like I was from Shearshaw, then there was so much fun over there, and then the business school is so much fun through RAC. And then like there's studies, then there's business, and then my own life. So I think, right, it really boils down, right, how do we protect our time, right? It is the environment, right? So I realized that my mindset was very strong, right? Before entering uni, right, I was into this whole course thing, read a lot of books, in touch with a lot of mentors, right? But when I entered university, right, I made a video actually that on it. Right? I shared about, it's my first ever video on my Instagram, the top 3 most painful lessons in the first year of my university. I talk about this thing called environment. Right? I talk about how the environment is stronger than the mindset. Yes, the mindset say I want to protect my time for this particular goals, but the environment will usually triumph. Why? Because you see, just imagine, right, Kevin, if you are a seed, a very, very fertile seed, and you are put into this infertile soil. So no matter how much water I've put in, how much fertilizer I put in, right, you will never ever grow to the seed you have become because you are just in the wrong environment.
Yeah, it's an amazing analogy actually. It's such an amazing analogy because like one question I wanted to ask you is the environment or will stronger? I posted it on my stories, right? 75% people say the will is stronger. But I know in my mind that actually that's really not the case. I mean, to be fair, the human will is very strong, right? It can survive in harshest environments. That's a given. But I always give the analogy, right? You can, with a strong mind, you can survive in the desert. But very likely you're not going to study there. Right? And it's the same concept we talk about. Like, it's only in a fertile environment that no matter how much potential the seed has, it just cannot thrive.
Yes.
So talk about how you set up your environment. So
I really say it's about the average. You are the average of 5 people that you hang out most with. I think it's a very common saying, right? For those who haven't heard it, right, just really think about it. Who are the 5 people you always most hang out with, right? In your school, in your life, right? And you'll be an average, right? And if we want to grow, we want to be in an environment of growth, right? And not just fun, right? And of course, how I feel, right, where we can best protect our goals, protect our time, right, is to hang with people with similar goals. People, you just mentioned support, right? People who support you, people who challenge you towards your goals and not detract you, not doubt you, right? Because true friends, true people, right, they are the ones who want you to become better, who want you to achieve your goals.
Yeah.
So, and of course, more importantly, is seeking mentorship, right?
Yeah.
Standing on the shoulders of giants, and we can see further. So, like for example, Rebound with Resilience is actually a form of very easy mentorship, right? For many different people who can relate. Right, of course, you want to go to high level, right? 10 steps ahead, 20 steps ahead. We can always look for industry experts, go for courses, meet with entrepreneurs, right? Who will very willingly share their experience and learning. So I think when we force this environment, right? We change the waters around us, right? We will be able to change our life. We'll be able to change the way we do our time. Right? So no matter how much time blocking I do, and no matter how much scheduling I do, right? If I'm in,
if
let's say,
join you for
join for supper. Oh,
it's
right?
It's gonna be difficult. Look at the thing.
Go supper. Go supper. Go drink. Right? Then how? Then like, it doesn't work really, right? So actually, one thing I did, right, that in my second semester of my hall is I closed the door because my hall is actually an open door policy, right? We open the door, right? So I just closed the door. I joined NUS Entrepreneur Society. I joined Toastmasters Club. I joined Business Career Services. So I forced myself into the environment, right? But still, I still hang out with my friends, just a little less time. I really do enjoy my time with them. We still meet up from genuine consciousness, so there's no fear, right, about losing friends and whatnot, right? I think ultimately we want to put ourselves into an environment, right, that pushes us to a direction. We need to have that first step, which is super important.
It's in research terminology, it's called environmental modification. That's one of the ways that you cultivate self-control and self-discipline, because environment is important. I just also want to qualify that we are not saying that people who have fun are bad people or whatever. I mean, people make their own choices, right?
Yes,
I always say that there is value to be gained if you want to go into horticulture, you want to plan stuff. There's value to be gained there. Like if people are happy doing it, right, and that's the outcome they want, then go for it. There's no judgment whatsoever. But if you say that, okay, you want to be financially free, you want to be financially independent, you want to provide for your parents, if that is truly your goal, right, and that's what gives you meaning, then you have to actions has to differ lah.
Yes, correct.
You have to set up systems where you cannot say that you want this and then your actions doesn't match up. So I just want to make that clear lah, because people might think that we're just having a holier than thou. It's not like, it just depends on your outcomes.
Yeah, correct. And I was from that space, right? And I do still enjoy all these activities, but just that these are the small sacrifices that we have to do, right, to achieve things that most people would like to have, but are hard to achieve.
Okay, wow. I think that really sums up this segment on making and protecting time, right? Very, very, very powerful. I think one additional tip for audiences, right, is that if you are studying or if you are in a work environment, you're self-employed, right, try and think of your five senses, because your distraction actually occurs in your five senses. Taste, touch, smell. What's the last two? Yeah, basically you figure out sight, right? So look at the distractions in the five senses. For example, if someone is if Ida starts making faces at me now, I'm going to get distracted, right? It's distracting me now. So if let's say you're in an environment where people are always joining you, for example, or there's always people shouting at you, or it's too hot, then it's very hard for you to stay focused. So look at these 5 areas and optimize your environment in these 5 areas. So that's one last tip for audiences before we move on. Last segment of the podcast, we're going to talk about factors that prevent inaction. Because I think even before all these systems and everything, there are things that prevent people from taking action.
Yep, correct.
Right? So in your experience, right, what are even on your experience, looking at other people as well, what are the main barriers that stop people from taking action besides distraction?
Yeah, that we were talking about distraction just now, correct? Yeah, so I think really, right, it boils down to, especially in our culture and context, right, the fear of judgment, the fear of failure, the fear of rejection, which is huge for me. They are all huge stuff for me, right? And I think maybe I can share, one particular so-called action I took, and a massive action I subsequently take, right, that allowed me to understand, right, these fears that I really had that I have to overcome. That's content creation, right? I think that like what I shared you personally before, right? When I started out, right, it's about 600 followers only. Today about 3.6, 3.7K, right? And I know and I see that a lot of people they want to actually attract their own tribe. They want to put their content out there. They want to mix with like-minded people, right? And it's very, very tough, right? Because the fear of judgment is one thing.
Every time they put out there, it's not cool. People make fun of you.
Correct. So of course, so because I think it really stems from this thing where since young we are always seeking approval. Firstly, from our parents, right? We are private school and whatnot, right? Then subsequently, we are trying to seek approval from from the society.
Yeah.
Right? We go out, what kind of career is good, how much money you want to make and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
But what I do realize at the end, right, is we need to who we need to seek from, right, the approval is just ourselves, right? And then we will be caring a lot about judgment. And one thing and one mindset that I give myself is actually not many people are thinking about you and not many people are caring about you.
Sure.
And the content I put out, right, like quotes, right, can be cringy and stuff like that, right? As long as I can impact one life, I can help one life be better off, right? It's a worthwhile content. Maybe 99 people don't like it. Yeah. It's fine. And I stuck to that mindset. Yeah. And eventually my audience grew towards the direction of people who are attracted to that,
by
growth.
There are always people.
People are attracted by entrepreneurship, people are attracted by finance. And that's how I built my audience, right? When I stuck through this view. It's always about the first step, right? It's always about the first step.
Yeah. I think it's reminding yourself also that no one cares about you.
Yes.
I know it's a tough thing to say, right? But the reality is that people are first self-interested. Like, 5 years down the road, 3 years down the road, they're not going to think like, oh, wow, Jing An put out this video that was cringy. No, they're thinking about how to pay their bills. They're thinking about how to care for their baby. They're not going to think about you.
Yeah,
and another thing is that they're also not going to pay your bills. Like they might give comments, right? But they're not going to pay your bills. They're not going to help you achieve your millionaire goal by 26 or 30 years old. Right? So I think that perspective shift is useful.
Yeah, correct.
So we talk about fear of judgment, right? Let's talk about fear of failure.
Yes, correct. I want to go into that, right? So just now it's fear of judgment, and before that it's actually fear of rejection. Fear of rejection, because we want acceptance from the society, right? So just think that we need just acceptance for ourselves, right? It's good enough. Yeah. So last point is actually the fear of failure. I think really, right, our education system kind of like conditioned us to not want to make mistakes. Yeah. And for me, I really hate failures. Yeah. That's why I found entrepreneurship quite interesting, because they embrace failures, right? They encourage failures. So and that's when I have a total paradigm shift towards failure, if not for entrepreneurship. Right, because people there, right, in the environment, right, they want you to make mistakes. They want you. The only way to succeed
very different paradigm.
Is to fail. It's like, wow, right? And failure is part of success. So how it is really about reframing our mind. Yeah. So how I frame failure is this: I need to fail fast. I need to fail often. I need to fail forward. That is like how I see failure. In terms of making mistakes, is I want to make as many mistakes as I can, as early as I can, and as much as I can, right? But never make the same mistake twice. So that gives me a lot of space, right, to make mistakes. It's okay, right? It's just part of it. Right. And I think with this mindset, right, in anything I do, right, even in terms of making a mistake of even a rejection, it's okay, right? Yeah. There's always a silver lining. Yeah. And I really think it's always this particular phrase and quote, right, that help me frame any obstacle, whether it's judgment, mistake, or rejection, right? Is for every obstacle that we face, right, it's up to us to choose how we want to approach it. Right? It can actually it can destroy us, or you can make it an opportunity for us to grow. So it's up to us to choose. Yep. So and that's how I feel, right, that we can tread on this kind of obstacles and then overcome it eventually.
It's amazing. I think this reminded me of one quote, right? You want success, you double your rate of failure.
That's intense. But yes.
Right, but of course, it's always a disclaimer. Like, don't just fail without learning. Like, you got to make sure you don't make the same mistake again. Maybe reflection and your CEO hour and everything comes in also. Yep. So, wow, there's so much value. I think we have hard time finding snippets to post because maybe more thing for Ita, but I try and keep it to 3. But I will send you the whole recording. You can pick out some stuff you want to put on your own platform.
Sure.
But so much value. I hope that you'll gain so much value. I think, if you want more of Jing An, okay, you can follow him on Instagram, check out his content. I guess we'll just end off with one final segment. Okay, this is a surprise segment. I didn't tell you about this.
Oh, okay.
So it's spontaneous, okay. 10 questions.
10 questions. Oh.
Okay, quick fire questions on success systems and motivations.
Okay. Let's go.
You ready? So you have about just keep answers.
I think
you can elaborate is fine, but just make sure you don't not too long.
I think my business school presentations has equipped me well with doing the Q&A, so I'm cool. Let's go.
Okay. Right. First question: define success.
Okay, so to me, success is not really just about being healthy, rich, and whatnot. Right? I would say it's by this quote by Paul Meyer, right? It's a progressive realization, right, of a worthwhile predetermined goal. Yeah, so it's to me, so as long as we have a goal that predetermined, right, and it's worthwhile to us, and I progressively realize it, I succeed.
Nice. What keeps you motivated?
What keeps me motivated? I think really it boils down to growth for me. Right? Of course, different phases in my life is different, right? Some is like grades, then money, then fun, right? But as of right now, it is just being a better version of myself compared to yesterday, and being better than the person is just right ahead of me. Right, okay. I just focus on these two, right? Just always focusing on growth. That kind of motivates me to get out of my bed, right? To continue doing what I need to do.
Nice. Do you have a go-to inspirational song?
Go-to inspirational song? Actually, yes.
Rocky,
No. Actually, I listen to this song almost every day, right? Okay. In 2018, right, when I was like, my mind is a whirlwind and environment and stuff, right? It's actually Be What You Want to Be by Darin.
Have you heard of it? No.
Every single day, because I was like in identity crisis, so I was like, let me be what I want to be, man. Yeah, so that is one song.
Play that in the background, but I think there might be copyright issues. I'm not sure. Y'all can go Google it. Okay, morning routine.
Morning routine. Okay, so my morning routine definitely is to, it varies from day to day. I do exercise every single day, right? But 3 times a week I do exercise. So if not, then now I'll wake up at 5 to 6 a.m. Right? I'm trying to wake up at 5 a.m. Right? It's not easy. Wake up 5 to 6 a.m. And then I will actually, some of the days, I'm trying to incorporate this thing called priming, right, by Tony Robbins, used to really visualize our day, to have deep breathing, and also have breakfast. Then after that, on the way to work, I will actually plan my time for the rest of the day, reply my messages. Then when I'm at work, right, if I have a book that I want to read, I will just read it first, right, my quiet time. So in other days when I have gymming, I want to work out, right? So I will, the first thing I do is I'll work out. I wake up, freshen up, go to the gym. Afterwards have a cold shower, have a good breakfast, plan my day again, right? And then head off to work. So that's my morning routine right now.
Night routine.
Night routine. Interesting. So night routine, of course, is I would say when I go home, it's simple lah. There's one particular thing that I mentioned just now that I always do is to review my day and to plan for the next day. Right, and having to the details into the hour, and then of course watch your face, bathe, and just go to sleep.
Okay. Yeah. What do you think is the biggest barrier to the lack of discipline?
Biggest barrier to the lack of discipline. Wow. Okay. So I think it's really lack of clarity, right? Because if you are very clear about certain things that we want, we'll do whatever it takes, right, to create structures and systems and environment, right, that will allow us to have that discipline. Yeah, so discipline can be conditioned. Yeah, that's to me, right? So as long as we have a huge desire of what we want, we'll do whatever it takes, right, to achieve it, even by forming structures and systems and mixing the right people.
Okay. What is one thing that really frustrates you?
One thing, inefficiency. Yeah, inefficiency. That's my personality. My personality type. I kind of
Share the secret to your success in one word.
Share what?
Share the secret to your success in one word.
Desire.
One word to describe yourself.
Ambitious.
Okay, last question. What's the most satisfying or rewarding part about your success?
Okay, this is interesting. So, impromptu, but I would say is figuring out a way for people like myself, right, to succeed. Not the smartest, but a hardworking person, right, who want to do more out of life, that kind of profile. And then using this same system, right, and formula that I have figured out, right, to help other people achieve similar or even better success, right? So it boils down to this quote, if I've grown because of someone else, help someone else grow because of me. And that is my guiding principle in everything that I do. And that excites me.
Wow, that's amazing. With that, we come to the end of today's episode. So much value from Jing An over here. In this, I said this is not a sponsored podcast, but if you are interested in learning more about finance or maybe personal growth, just drop him a DM, right? He has things to pass you. You can have a chat, have a coffee with him. And yeah, I'm just so happy to have you as one of my first guests in January.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Really really thanks so much. You know, when I came to this studio, that wow, it's really that professional. You know, it's not. I have done a few podcasts previously, but this is the first that we ever had that is really quite intense, and I think there'll be much more exciting things that's coming up for Kevin, because we actually share with each other about our content creation journey, and I really hope that we all can support each other. For me, next year, a big thing that I'm going into is as well as video creation, right? Podcast, I think, we can just work together, right? Sure. And I need to lend his equipment maybe.
It's crowded really, it's crowded. You just do YouTube, can already. But yes, okay, so with that, I think we can say bye to the audience. Thank you for staying tuned to this episode. Do subscribe to our channels, stay resilient, stay focused, manage your environment, and I wish you all the success in the year ahead. Okay? Bye!